And we're back with another Hearthstone budget deck. Today, it's the deck that memed itself into existence.
Versus Jaina.
Purify Priest. I thought I'd just wait for the nice little intro there. And for this deck, you're going to need this much dust and the One Night in Karazhan adventure. If you don't have Karazhan, this is not the deck for you, because it kind of relies on the Purify spell, which comes from Karazhan. Also, it's quite helpful to have Barnes as well, so I'll explain what the general premise of the deck is, and then we'll get into the game in a bit more detail. So, obviously, it's all about silence effects, so you're gonna need to get big minions out way before they have any right to be there, so we're going to use Ancient Watcher, and we're going to use the humongous Razor Leaf. After we've got them out, the idea is we're going to silence them with Silence, Purify, which also draws us a card for the cost of 2 mana, and also we've got Cabal Songstealer as well, just for good measure. And the way we're going to get those silence minions out is by just drawing into them with things like the Power Word Shield. We've also got things like Barnes, which can just summon them onto the board, and there'll be a 1-1, but then if we have a silence effect as well, it turns them into huge minions. Now if Barnes doesn't work, don't worry about it, because it's still a 3-4 and a 1-1 for 4 mana, that's not too bad. Now there's lots of people running around with Faceless Shamblers in their Purify Priest deck. I say that as if Purify Priest is a popular deck, it's not really. You can run those, it's very good, but that's obviously an epic card. It's the 4 mana 1-1 that gains taunt and also the stats of a targeted minion, so naturally if you give something Divine Shield you're going to want to steal it and copy it. That's a pretty good idea by me, but if you don't have that, like me, you can throw in something like Defender of Argus or maybe even Sunfury Protector if you're looking to taunt up and stay alive. So the idea with this deck is stay alive, get your minions out pretty early and then silence them, and then after you silence them, then you buff them, and then you attack face. Now it works a lot more than it used to, I think because of the Razor Leaf, because of it coming down on turn 3, and because we have quite a few silence effects now in Priest, and because all of the silence effects are attached to cards which aren't in and of themselves completely fucking useless, it actually makes this deck somewhat, and I mean somewhat viable. So it could actually be onto something here. And a couple of other cards that I didn't touch on. We've got Radiant Elemental to make our spells cost less. We've got Priest of the Feast because we want to use all of these spells to heal up as well. This deck is somewhat decent against aggro because if you remember Wall Druid, it was the Druid that had the Ancient Watchers in there, and it would Sunfury Protector them and Defender of Argus to taunt up. This deck does a similar thing, so if they can't get through your minions, it actually makes it really hard for the aggro decks, and people are going to be prioritising, if they know what deck you're running, they're going to be prioritising killing your minions, especially things like the Razor Leaf, because they're going to be scared of things like this happening, where Cabal Songstealer comes down and it silences your Razor Leaf. Now, in this situation, I apparently decide not to do that. I am watching this back for the first time in quite a few days. I think the idea was to play around the mirror entity, and obviously Secret Mage might actually be a problem. There are quite a lot of secrets running around in the meta right now. You've got a lot of paladins running around with Hydrologist, and you've also got a lot of those value mages with Medivh, and also Freeze Mage, so maybe you want to run a counter for those secrets in this deck. But I think when you build decks, especially budget decks, you have a lot of decisions to make in regards to how much do I want to devote to my win condition and how much do I want to devote to countering what my opponent plays. Now this particular version of the deck doesn't have much to counter what the opponent plays, and by that I mean board clears, things like Holy Nova, things like Dragonfire Potion. It doesn't run those cards, and that's because it's all focused on getting those minions out early and then buffing them and then attacking your opponent's face. The idea is that they have to hit your minions because you're going to be really dangerous if they ignore you. Now naturally that does leave you quite vulnerable to some strategies, so it's gonna need some tweaking along the way in order to make it good against a variety of decks, and by no means is this the best ladder deck, can I just make that clear, but it is a fun ladder deck and I think there's something to say for that. So we're coming down with this Cabal Songstealer now. We're going to be silencing the 4-8 and attacking him with it. I think it's the right time. I had a long think about this one. I was thinking, what could possibly go wrong here? I was thinking of all of the different scenarios. What kind of spells do mage have? And basically the big decision I was making there was, should I silence this now and get the extra 4 damage in? Or should I wait and silence it when I can get a big combo off with Divine Spirit, Inner Fire, and also the silence effect? Obviously you silence it first so it doesn't silence off the 2 cards you just played on it. Obviously. That is an effect, that is a problem that you can have with this deck. The ordering, obviously you need the minion to be there first, so that you can silence it, and then you need to buff it. You can't buff it and then silence it, you lose your buffs. You can't silence something when it isn't on the board as well, so ordering is quite important, and it does mean that you can run out of steam sometimes, you can struggle against some decks that just draw better than you, but luckily, I think this is just enough to win. And look at that, 26 burst damage, 16 burst damage, I don't know where I got 26 from, 16 burst damage there from the priest. And Power Word Shield proving to be actually quite a powerful card, because along with Inner Fire and Divine Spirit it can give you an extra 4 attack, and also draw a card. So that's the deck, that's pretty much exactly how you want it to be played. And if you want to see more, stick around. I'll be playing a couple more games with Purified Priest in a couple of days' time. It's sure to be in Trainwreck. Make sure you hit subscribe to catch that, and maybe you want to hit the notifications bell if you want to be reminded whenever I post a new budget deck and other videos too. So I'll see you next time. So long.